everybody. If you're just joining us, we're going to just wait a couple seconds to give people a chance to find the feed, and then we're going to get started today learning about freezing.
So I said about freezing.
All right, looks like we have a couple people with us in the audience, so let's go ahead and get started. So today we are super excited to talk about freezing. This is the last in our little home preservation mini series. Hopefully all of y'all out there have tons of produce that you grew this summer that you're gonna be canning and freezing. Next week, we are going to have a session on fire-wise landscaping. So kind of an important topic, thinking about even some of the fires that are burning right now in other parts of the country. There are a lot of things you can do in your own home landscape to minimize risk from fires, which are always a risk no matter where you live. So we're not immune just here in Virginia. And so that is going to be next Thursday at 10 a.m. instead of 2 p.m. And it will also be recorded. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Melissa Chase, who's going to introduce Susan. Melissa is the state coordinator for the Master Food Volunteer Program and the Food Safety Program Manager for Virginia Cooperative Extension.
Thank you, Devin. It's a pleasure to be here today to introduce Susan Prillaman, who's going to be talking with us about how to freeze produce. And I have a couple of announcements that I'd like to share with you before we get started with all of that. As Devin mentioned, I am the state coordinator for the Master Food Volunteer Program. We are very similar to the Master Gardener Program in that we work with training adult volunteers to be able to help us deliver programs around the state related to anything about basic nutrition or food safety and food preservation and even physical activity. Even though we have the program in place, we're not necessarily in all cities and counties just yet. We hope that we will be in the not too distant future. But if you'd like to learn more about the program or have an interest in learning whether it's available in your area or not, if you'll go to our main extension page, which is ext.vt.edu, you can find us there and you can send me a note and ask me whether it's available in your area or not. There's actually a link right on the Master Food Volunteer website where I can get you more information about that program. Also, today, Susan, the information that Susan is going to be sharing with you will also be available on a virtual home food preservation course site that is brand new to Extension. We're offering it virtually for the first time now, and it's been active since around the first part of July. And so that program, I believe the URL link will be added to the post a little bit later for you to be able to get access to that. There is a nominal fee to get access to it, but that course site has more in-depth information about the different areas of food preservation that we work with, including canning, freezing, drying, and fermentation. And so Susan has been very much a part of that, and we're excited to have her be with us today. And she's just going to give you some highlights on preserving food related to freezing. And so we'll turn the floor over to her here in just a second, but I wanted to tell you just a little bit about Susan. She has been with Extension for a number of years and has been located in Bedford County, and she works mainly with family and consumer sciences programs. Anything related to food, nutrition, and health. It may be youth programming, it may be parenting and family development, or it may be family financial management. But she has done a lot of work with us in food safety and in food preservation, and I have thoroughly enjoyed working with her. It's a pleasure to have her with us. I worked with her both as an agent previously and now in my role working with her on statewide programs. And so Susan, we're going to turn the floor over to you and let you tell us a little bit more about how to freeze produce.
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. I'm Susan Prillaman. I'm glad to be in front of you today talking about freezing. You can freeze about anything. Freezing is the easiest, most convenient, least time-consuming food preservation method. Freezing extends the shelf life of our food. Before we get into, I selected fresh peaches since we're still in peach season to demonstrate a syrup pack type of freezing today. But before we start with that method, I like to remind everyone before you start freezing, freezing is one of the fastest food preservation methods, but being the fast and being efficient with it takes some planning. One of the very first things I recommend to clients is to actually see where the condition of your freezer, where it is in the house or in the basement of the home or in the garage. You know, when is the last time you've gone through your freezer, actually cleaned it out with a baking soda solution? Have you depleted your supply of food, brought the older materials up front towards the head of your freezer so that you know what you still need to use? Freezing before you go out to the garden or to your local farmer's market to get that fresh, just picked produce or fruits to put in your freezer. Planning is critical. You want to make sure that you have space in your freezer, that your freezer has a good plug secure. No one can come running through the house or the basement and accidentally unplug your freezer. Or during, of course, these summer electrical storms that we've had recently and some more severe storms when the lights go out, we need to make sure that we have a plan for backup and be preventive instead of reactive when the lights go out. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Also, when freezing, we need to talk about the equipment. I have Sandy Seals here with me today, and she's tilting the camera for me just a little. We have to improvise. We don't have a whole TV studio behind us. It's just two of us. So, and of course, the wonderful Devin and Dr. Melissa Chase at Blacksburg working with us today. But you want to make sure that you have plenty of containers on hand, plenty of supplies. You want freezer tape. You want labels. You can freeze with your wide mouth mason jars. Any of the jars that are straight sided. You want to make sure that your containers have a good, strong seal. They're leak proof, vapor proof. You want to make sure that no off odors can get in. You want them firm. You don't want them brittle, because certainly all those wonderful, good corn on the cob or fresh peaches or your asparagus, you don't want for it to get, the famous word is freezer burn. Your freezer constantly runs. It runs cold air, circulates through the whole, around your containers, around the packaging. So you want to make sure that no air can get into your unfrozen food while it's trying to freeze. And once it's frozen, you don't want freezer burn. So that's why it's critical to make sure that you have enough supplies on hand before you begin. Also, with your kitchen space, you want some elbow room. You want to make sure that your surfaces, and most of all your hands, your equipment is ready, clean and sanitized and ready to go. I cannot emphasize that enough. Freezing does not sterilize your food. So it is very, very important for you to be extra cautious in your kitchen when you're freezing, to make sure that you're frequently washing your hands and your surfaces and your equipment so things can stay pristine. Also, when you're freezing, it is so important to have reliable, test-proven materials. we rely on USDA canning guidelines, as well as our own. Virginia Cooperative Extension has a very extensive PDFs and publications on up-to-date canning and freezing techniques. Also, the Ball Corporation. And we also have a wonderful National Food Preservation headquarters in University of Georgia in Athens. It's called So Easy to Preserve. And these are reliable sources. You don't want to put your freshly picked produce or fruits in jeopardy by going by poorly worded or untested recipes, especially currently online. Today, what I'd like to bring to you is 3 methods of freezing peaches. Peaches are a light fruit. It's easily for them to absorb different odors. So we want to be very careful when we're freezing. Very first thing is there's 3 ways to freeze peaches. You have your sugar pack, you have your syrup pack, which we're going to do today, and then you also have a dry pack. With syrup pack freezing, you have already selected your best, freshest peak of freshness peaches. You have dipped them in hot water, washed them, of course, dipped them in hot water so that the peelings can come off very easily. Put them in icy cold water, and then you're ready for to package them into syrup. The syrup is 2 quarts. What's recommended through USDA and the National Food Preservation is 2 quarts of 40% sugar. That is 2 quarts of water to about 2 cups and 3/4 cup of sugar. That sounds like a lot. It's a heavy syrup, but that's the one that's recommended. If it was peaches especially, I like to go a little bit lighter, and I have 4 cups of water to 1 cup of sugar for a light syrup today. So what I will do is put a 1/2 cup of syrup in my container. Using clean hands, I am going to fill the container with my freshly sliced peaches up until about 1 inch head space, you want to make sure that you have enough head space for expansion, of course, in the freezer. You want your peaches to taste just as good today as in the month of February. So once we have put and placed our peaches in our syrup, we want to make sure that it's covered again completely. And also, I want everyone to realize that it's a good recommendation to take a piece of parchment and put right on top of that liquid and your fresh peaches to make a double seal before you actually seal your container. You want to wipe the rim. The rim is very important to wipe so you can have a secure, tight fit. Let me lift the parchment up just one moment because I forgot one thing. Important, just like in pressure canning and water bath canning, you want to get the air out. And it's okay. It's called being 100% human. If you forget to do that, I just redid, put the parchment back up, re-clean my seal, and we're good to go. And I always like to burp my rigid containers. Rigid containers, what I like about them is you can stack them. They stay firm And the flexible storage bags enable you to put larger amounts. Labels is very important as well. So we have peaches in here. We definitely want to know what they are. Have you ever put something in your freezer and then about a week or two, or maybe a month or two later, you walk in there and go, I think that was beef, or was that spaghetti? When you put a food item in the freezer, it does change form and color. So make sure you label your contents clearly and the date that it was prepared. And again, first in, first out. So my older fruit would come up to the front and my new fruit would go into the back of the freezer. There are many questions I know that you might have on freezing. Virginia Cooperative Extension is unique in that we can answer those questions and have experts like Dr. Melissa Chase to help us if we don't know the answer right now. But we also are there as an extension of our university, our land grant universities. So please, if you have questions about the home food preservation, give us a call. And thank you so much for your time today. Back to you, Devin.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Susan. If anyone has a question for Susan, you can type them in the comments here. We have a couple questions. So one important one, how would you be able to tell if you froze something and it like went bad and was no longer good? Maybe you had a temperature fluctuation in your freezer.
Well, one of the big indicators is ice crystals. If you have a large amount of ice crystals, then that product has been exposed to the open air. It's been aged, and the effect of nutrients as well as the texture and color of that food will be affected. Ideally, we want to freeze things that we can consume within a year, especially with fruit like peaches like we did today. They are at optimum about 6 to 8 months in your freezer. You want to really have plan for those fresh fruits and eat them rapidly. Also in your freezer, Devin, that I didn't mention, is it's critical to know that it's at 0. When you freeze, you want to freeze. You don't want to partially freeze. If you partially freeze and then if your freezer has fluctuation of temperature, you're going to have more slightly defrosting your foods and then freezing them back again solid. That every time that fluctuation happens, you're going to have more ice crystals and more freezer burn, and the product is not going to be good.
Okay, another question here. Do you recommend using a sealer? So like a vacuum sealer type thing?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Vacuum sealers. I just don't have one. I need to put that on my Christmas list this year. But vacuum sealers are very efficient. What I really like about some of the top brands is that you can seal them. They're called reduced oxygen packaging. It gets more of the air out than our regular zip type bags. It's a more secure, more heavy duty material for freezer, and it's especially adopted for freezers. So I'm all about vacuuming packaging. Reduced oxygen packaging, again, a lot of times you can take it from the freezer and pop it right into a quick meal situation where you can have that item put directly in boiling water, and just in minutes you can have a meal. So I'm very happy to answer more questions about vacuum sealing. I have one that I have used, but it's not mine, so I didn't have it here today. So that's definitely, Melissa, I'm going to have to put that on my Christmas list.
Me too. We have a couple questions here about for specific things. How do you freeze them? For those, I can go back through later and provide a link to the publication, which has all of the different charts for how you freeze different things.
Absolutely.
Some of the other resources. But kind of just to address that, is there anything you would say you just definitely cannot freeze?
Anything with high water content, especially in vegetables, your cucumbers, your celery, your lettuces, your potatoes, even though you might have potatoes in a stew and you freeze that's fine. Just know when they thaw out, they're going to be mushier because of the water content in those produce and those fruits.
Okay, another question here, kind of along the lines of the special freezer bags. What about those plastic Tupperware like freezer containers? Should you use those, or can you just use any regular Tupperware container?
As I spoke to at the beginning, you want to make sure that they are leak proof and that they have a very good secure top to them, that they're rigid, they are not going to crack under temperature change. I just wouldn't recommend a real cheap plastic. You want something that says freezer proof.
Okay, we have another question here. This question, my mom is actually asking this, and I feel that I'm being targeted. She wants to know if it's safe to just consume fruit that's been thawed from the freezer, or if you need to cook it first. Because I always take fruit right out of the freezer and eat it.
It's safe to just eat right out of the freezer.
Okay.
Remember, when in thawing, we want to thaw our fruits and our produce in refrigeration. There's 4 ways to thaw. In the microwave, you can thaw your produce as well, but you have to remember, anytime you're thawing in the microwave, you've actually started the cooking process, so you have to finish it there. We can always use our running water. You want to change out the water every 30 minutes, especially if it's a block of soup, or you want to make sure that it thaws rapidly and under refrigeration first if you can plan ahead. If you get home and you've forgotten to take something out of the freezer, then we can take it under water or the microwave. There's also a 4th way to thaw, and that's with the direct heat, and cook it to minimum internal temperatures.
Okay, good. So I hope my mom heard that. I wasn't doing anything wrong.
My husband did it last night with blueberries. He took them out of the freezer and started popping them. It's just the way he likes to eat them.
That's what I do too. Okay, so a couple more questions here. One, could you explain, you said you can only use the wide mouth jars. Is that right? Can you explain that a little bit more?
You in the freezer, you want straight edges. You don't want anything. It's easier to pack with them. And it's actually designed for the freezer as well as canning. So you want to keep with those packages that are recommended.
Okay, and one last question here. Why can't you just take food and put it right in a bag into the freezer? Why do you need to do the packing it with a liquid or boiling it?
Right. Especially with produce or vegetables, we need to blanch those to lessen the microorganisms, the enzymes, the same enzymes that blossomed our plants and produced the fruit that we harvested is the same enzyme that will make it rot and mushy. So we really need to make sure, especially with vegetables, that we blanch ahead. And there are charts in our So Easy to Preserve, our Ball Corporation, as well as Virginia Cooperative Extension publications on precise times of blanching. As soon as you blanch, it's a short period of time of cooking to make sure that those microorganisms are quickly dismissed. We put it in cold, icy bath water, blot them dry, and then package them.
All right, perfect. Let me just double check that there's no more questions here. I will go back and make sure everyone has the links to these publications so you can look up your specific items. Thank you so much for joining us today, Susan. That was super helpful. I'm going to go home and can my peaches. Or sorry, I'm going to freeze them. And then next week, as I said in the beginning, we're going to go back to our regular sort of gardening series, and we're going to talk about Firewise landscaping. So how you can make your home landscape out in your yard safe in case of a fire. And that
Good idea.
Yeah, super relevant right now because of some of the fires that are burning. So that is going to be next Thursday at 10 a.m. And thank you so much to everybody that joined us today and that has been joining us throughout the summer. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you're learning a lot.